Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of play boosters from the latest Magic the Gathering set, Bloomburrow. Bloomburrow is going to allow us to take a look at Magic the Gathering on a smaller scale due to the smaller creatures that are highlighted in this set. I've seen many words used to describe this set in the terms of the subject matter of the art, being these smaller creatures, cute, cuddly, whimsical, fantastical, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a pretty neat take, and it feels to some degree like a little bit of a return to some of the older Magic the Gathering sets. Maybe that's a weird way to interpret what they're doing here. But over time, as Magic the Gathering has grown and evolved, we've seen introduction of more inspiration for the types of art and the subject matter, right? We've seen more technology come in, more sci-fi type of elements, and we have seen, obviously, things from the secret layers coming in, taking liberties with the art style and all of that. And I do think a lot of that stuff is pretty cool. You end up with very cool cards, very cool abilities, and obviously amazing art as well. But I feel like from what I've seen here with Bloomburrow, it kind of grounds it back to some of the more original takes on things. Granted, it might be a little bit less epic or, crazy or off the wall or whatever you want to call it, in some cases really kind of out there art with some of the original stuff. It could be a little bit less grimy, a little bit less dark and brooding, but I do think there's something to kind of grounding it to something in nature, which is pretty neat. Before I forget, I did want to remind you all to go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you're excited about in this set, if this is something that appeals to you, or if you know anyone that seems to have piqued their interest, and of course subscribe to get notified whenever I do a new video. As you know, I like to start with my disclaimers. I am not a pro at pronouncing a lot of the names or, some of the things that we might find within these magical, mystical cards here. So please bear with me as I do that. I'm also not the most up to date on all the latest and greatest chase cards and the rarest and most powerful things. There might be the occurrence where I open something up and maybe don't know that I'm holding solid gold in my hand, or I might open something up and be fawning over it for it to really not matter to most people. But again, I like what I like. Some good artwork, some cool abilities, or things that seem to work with how I want to play will always stand out to me and get me excited. I'm going to go ahead and try to approach this video the way that I normally do. We're going to take a quick look at some of the packaging here. We're going to open each pack. And just a reminder, in case you are a new viewer, or even if you're a returning viewer, when we pull cards here from packs or whatever it is, I like to kind of take my time and go through them a little bit more in detail, just reading the full card text, taking a closer look at the card art, flavor text, all that stuff. So it's a little bit more of a leisurely pace as we go through things. I know it's very exciting to pull cards, and sometimes we just want to go ahead and, really get through them and see if we got anything cool. But I like kind of savoring the journey here. So just FYI, we're going to go at a little bit more of a relaxed pace through this video. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get as of recording at least, current market value for the cards that I pull and the overall pack value, and then we'll repeat for the second pack here. At the end, we will have some closing thoughts. So with that, let's start taking a look at what we got here. So this is a Bloomburrow play booster. A play booster, according to Wizards of the Coast themselves, is going to be a set booster and a draft booster combined into one. According to them, they're perfect for limited play and fun to open. You may find art cards, showcase cards, and additional rares and or mythics. Plus, you'll find a traditional foil in every pack. Let's just take a look at the flavor text here for the play booster. Tiny Tales, big adventure. Put your best paw forward and enter the world of Bloomburrow. When elemental forces rage out of control, the salvation of the valley falls on the shoulders of its smallest protectors. Fight besides mice, frogs, bats, birds, lizards, squirrels, and other critters as you restore the balance of peace and prove that bravery comes in all sizes. Alright, now it's time to make the magic happen. Let's open up this pack. I ruined a bit of the artwork here, but you can see it's got this cool little art on the inner envelope. I'll try to be more careful with the second one. Alright, and let's open the pack itself. Alright, so now we're just going to pull the cards here. Polywop, Runaway Together, Pleaded Provisioner, Roughshod Duo, Early Winter, Cash Grab, Uncharted Haven, Corpseberry Cultivator, Long Rivers Pull, Shrike Force, Sinister Monolith, Manifold Mouse, Mountain, Thought Shucker, Steam Path Charger. Alright, so now that we've pulled the cards and just kind of gone through them like that, let's go through them a little bit more in detail, take a closer look at some of the art, the card text, all that sort of stuff. Up first, we've got Polywop, a common instant at 3 generic and 1 green mana. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each frog you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature you don't control. Flavor text on Polywop reads, "We'll see who croaks first." And now just a closer look at the art here on Polywop. Next, we've got a common instant. This is Runaway Together, costing us 1 generic and 1 blue mana. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. Flavor text on Runaway Together reads, "Nobody bothered to look for Lebo and Pulla because everyone knew they didn't want to be found." And now just a closer look at the artwork here for Runaway Together. Next up, we've got Pleaded Provisioner. This is a common creature, a bird scout, costing us 4 generic and 1 white mana. Pleaded Provisioner has flying, and when Pleaded Provisioner enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. Pleaded Provisioner is a 3/4 creature, and its flavor text reads, "Aerial supporters train for years to make sure the weapons they drop land in the hands of mice and not on their heads." And now just a closer look at the artwork for Pleaded Provisioner. Next up, we've got Roughshod Duo, which is a common 3/2 creature. It's a mouse raccoon who costs us 1 generic and 1 red mana. It has trample, and whenever you expend 4, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. And we get a little reminder on what expending means. You expend 4 as you spend your 4th total mana to cast spells during your turn. So we'll see what other new updated mechanics we might come across from Bloomburrow here. The flavor text for Roughshod Duo reads, "On guard, you inadequate excuse for a foe. Challenge the mouse." Rah, 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 agreed the raccoon. And now let's just take a closer look at the artwork. Nice little teamwork going on. Next up, we've got a common instant, Early Winter, costing us 4 generic and 1 black mana. You get to choose 1, exile target creature, or target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. The flavor text on this one reads, "The climate changed, and the world suffered." And let's just take a closer look at the art here for Early Winter. The amount of detail in these is just very impressive, especially since the subject matter tends to be very small, you know, rodents, lizards, insects, things of that nature. But overall, just very, I don't know, in my opinion, very stunning artwork. Next up, we've got a common instant, Cash Grab, costing us 1 generic and 1 green mana. Cash Grab lets you mill 4 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled in this way into your hand. If you control a squirrel or return a squirrel card to your hand this way, create a food token. So that close-up of the art here. Next up, we've got a land, Uncharted Haven. This land is common. Uncharted Haven enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color. Tap to add 1 mana of the chosen color. Flavor text on Uncharted Haven reads, "There are lands beyond valley, wild, calamity-scarred, and beautiful." That was a quote from Farfeather, Birdfolk Scout. Now let's take a closer look at the art here. Next here we've got Corpseberry Cultivator. This is a common creature, a squirrel warlock, weighing in at 2/3. It costs us 1 generic and then 2 dual mana here with black and green. And the card text here reads, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may forage. It clarifies what foraging here is for us. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. Whenever you forage, put a +1/+1 counter on Corpseberry Cultivator. The flavor text on this reads, a rare fruit grows from the corpses of calamity beasts, with nectar the flavor of strength and skin as fragile as life. So let's just take a closer look at the art here. Now we've got Long River's Pull. This is an uncommon instant costing us 2 blue mana. And this one has a new mechanic, gift a card. So it tells us a little bit more about that. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, they draw a card before its other effects. In exchange, you, the person who plays the card, gets to counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead, counter target spell. Let's take a closer look here at Long River's Pull. And as you get closer here, you can see the little armor that he's got on here. Pretty neat. Alright, next up we've got Shrike Force, an uncommon creature, a bird knight, weighing in at 1/3, costs us 2 generic and 1 white mana. Shrike Force, I'm assuming it's Shrike Force, like Strike Force, it could be Shriek Force, but I think they're going for a play on Strike Force. Shrike Force has flying, double strike, and vigilance. We've got a lengthy quote here for the flavor text that reads, I've trained every one of them in aerial maneuvers, talon strikes, and dive precision. They are the top of my class, and they may surpass me one day. And that quote comes from Quickwing, Master Flyer. So let's take a closer look at the artwork here, and this one just has some beautiful colors to it there with what looks like a evening sky, a dusk sky. I guess it could be early morning. It's got kind of sunset vibes there. Just little nuggets, little details, and everything in every little corner. So next up we've got an uncommon artifact, Sinister Monolith. This costs us 3 generic and 1 black mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's also got an activated ability here where you tap and pay 2 life and sacrifice Sinister Monolith to draw 2 cards. Activate only as a sorcery. And we've got a little bit of flavor text here at the bottom that reads, blood and brine make a strong mortar. Alright, let's take a closer look at the artwork for Sinister Monolith. And it does look very sinister indeed. Alright, next here we've got Manifold Mouse. This is a rare creature, a 1/2 mouse soldier. This costs us 1 generic and 1 red to play. And we've got another new mechanic here, Offspring 2. With a little explanation of what that means. You may pay an additional 2 as you cast this spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token copy of it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample until end of turn. So you can go ahead and just grow your little mouse army here and keep buffing them. This can be a problem. The offspring tokens do not create offspring themselves because the mechanic only applies as this card is played if you pay the offspring cost. And since the token isn't entering play the same way, you're not able to just continue offspringing from the offspring. That makes sense. But I do have confirmation here direct from the wizard's site that the offspring token will have the same name, creature types, mana cost, mana value, and abilities as the parent creature. So the only difference is really the power and the toughness. So you can really raise a little army here. Let's just take a closer look here at the artwork. And again, we just have this super intricate art here for such a tiny little creature. Loads of color here in the background. Again, I feel like this one would be just crazy as a foil. And I'm just noticing it looks like here these little ethereal wisps. Maybe I'm just seeing things, but that almost looks like another little mouse face there in the background, right there in the center. Maybe my eyes playing tricks on me, but it could be that some sort of little mouse spiritual energy going on there. All right, next here we've got this very cool looking land here. I don't know if it's like a showcase or extended art or how you would define that, but it's a very cool looking basic land here for a mountain. It is a common. We've got this little raccoon archer here, it looks like, and it's even got a little butterfly friend there. All right, now we've got our foil card here. This is a common creature. It's a 1/3 Thought Shucker. It costs us 1 generic and 1 blue to play, and it is in fact a rat rogue creature. Thought Shucker has Threshold, which lets you pay 1 generic and 1 blue to put a +1/+1 counter on Thought Shucker and draw a card. Activate only if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard and only once. The flavor text on Thought Shucker reads, "Many rats have found their minds while lost in the mud-slicked gyre of a snail shell." All right, so let's just take a closer look here at Thought Shucker in all its foilness. And here we can see I'm really expanding his mind in this snail shell there. There he is, just chilling, tripping with a snail shell while sitting on a skeleton, you know, like one do. Last up here, we have got our token. This is Steam Path Charger. It is a token creature, a lizard warlock. It is a common token. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target player. And this token's mana cost is 1 generic and 1 red. And the token creature is a 1/1 creature. Closer look here at Steam Path Charger. We're really getting detailed with those scales. Let's go ahead and just get the individual card values and the pack value as of the recording here. With pack 1 done, let's go ahead and move on to pack number 2. Let's see if I can open this one a little bit more carefully here. I really got it glued down. Get a better look at the art now that it's not ripped. Alright, so first, like we do, we're just going to go ahead and pull the cards, see what we've got, and then we'll circle back to get more detail on them. First up, we've got Raccoon Rallier, Agate Blade Assassin, Agate Blade Assassin, Sun Shower Druid, another Thought Shucker, Banishing Light, Might of the Meek, Pond Prophet, another Long Rivers Pull, Bone Cache Overseer, 3 Tree Scribe, Eddy Merc Crab, Dawn's Truce, Island, Daggerfang Duo, and a sword. Alright, so let's circle back, take a closer look here at some card text, flavor text, artwork, all that stuff. First up, we've got a common 2/2 creature, a Raccoon Bard, Raccoon Rallier, costing us 1 generic and 1 red. It's got an activated ability. When you tap it, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. And we've got a little bit of a flavor text down here at the bottom that reads, "I used to play for a family until I realized I could inspire an entire party with a single note." Alright, let's take a closer look at this musical raccoon here. He's really getting into that there. Got his little Louis Armstrong going with this. It looks kind of like a didgeridoo, like a war horn, something like that. I love that right there in the background we can see one of his inspired warriors here, just ready to jump into the fray with the right tunes. His tail here is imbued with some sort of mystical fiery force here. And next up here we've got a common creature, a lizard assassin. It is a 1/3 creature. This is Agate Blade Assassin. It costs us 1 generic and 1 black mana to play. And it says here, whenever Agate Blade Assassin attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. We've got a bit of flavor text at the bottom that reads, Some lizard folk wield the precious agate and yearn for fire. Others wield it and thirst for blood. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the artwork for this little lizardy assassin. We got that purpley glowing blade. Apparently agate is a type of mineral, like a precious type of rock. I don't know if it's precious, but it's like a mineral that gets used a lot. I guess some people use it for jewelry. This lizard uses it to form blades. And just take a look at the detail in the cold-blooded killer's eyes of the assassin there. A closer look here at that deadly blade. This is one of those I think the purple would really pop in a foil. It'd be pretty cool to see this in that type of printing treatment. Next up, we've got a common creature, a frog druid. This is a 0/2 creature. Sunshower druid costs 1 green, and the text reads, when Sunshower druid enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and you gain 1 life. We've also got a bit of flavor text here that reads, apprentice augurs begin their studies by predicting where the rain will fall. Even those who don't succeed derive great joy from the process. Well, let's get a better look at the art here for Sunshower Druid. We've got another Thought Shucker. This is one that we already pulled, but last time we pulled it as a foil. This time it's just a non-foil. Just a little up-close look at the artwork here for this one then. Still very detailed art here, but definitely I think stands out more as a foil. And here we've got a Banishing Light. This is a common enchantment, costing us 2 generic and 1 white mana. When Banishing Light enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Flavor text for Banishing Light is a quote, and it reads, if you cannot find light in the darkness, create it. And that's a quote from Auril High Cleric. And let's just take a more up-close look at the artwork here. We've got some bats creating a barrier to protect this other little woodland creature here. I don't think it's a mouse. It could be like a skunk or otter or some other type of furry little creature there. It's even got a little bird skull necklace, it looks like. And it looks like it's protecting against this. It looks like an eagle, falcon, bird of prey. We've got a common instant, Might of the Meek, costing us 1 red mana to play. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse. Draw a card. And we've got another quote for the flavor text here, which reads, fear is unavoidable. You can run from it with your tail between your legs, or charge it head on with sword in hand. I prefer the latter. And that was a quote from Roe Veteran Hero. Now let's just take a closer look at the artwork here. And here we've got a little mousy warrior squaring off against a fearsome snake, charging it head on with sword in hand, or at least some sort of a shield and a lightning bug of some sort there. Next we've got this common creature, a frog advisor. It is a 1/1 creature, Pond Prophet, and it costs us 2 hybrid mana of green and blue, so you can kind of pick your combination there. When Pond Prophet enters, draw a card. The flavor text for Pond Prophet reads, the rainfall brings us news of the world around us. I've learned a lot, but most of all, I've learned that it's very exciting out there. Alright, let's take a closer look at the art for Pond Prophet here. We've got another Long Rivers pulled, so we're not going to cover it here again. Now we've got an uncommon 1/1 creature, a Squirrel Warlock, Bone Cache Overseer, and Bone Cache Overseer is going to cost us 1 black mana. Bone Cache Overseer has an activated ability where you can tap it and pay 1 life, and for that you get to draw a card. Activate only if 3 or more cards left your graveyard this turn, or if you've sacrificed a food this turn. We've got some flavor text here, pretty simple. Bring me my harvest. And let's just take a closer look at the artwork here for Bone Cache Overseer. And here he is accepting his harvest of these ghostly acorns from his little skeletal followers. And we've even got some little skulls here hanging out hidden in the shrubs. This is a pretty dope card. I like it. Alright, so now we've got 3-Tree Scribe. This is a 2/3 uncommon creature, a frog druid, which costs us 1 generic and 1 green mana to play. Whenever 3-Tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Flavor text reads, "The tree wants to give me a warning. I just need to help it communicate." So let's take a closer look at the artwork on 3-Tree Scribe. Uncommon card, Eddy Merc Crab, costing us 5 generic and 2 blue mana. Eddy Merc Crab is a 5/5 creature, an elemental crab. Eddy Merc Crab has flash, and this spell costs 1 generic less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. It enters the battlefield tapped if it's not your turn. When Eddy Merc Crab enters, tap up to 2 target creatures. Now let's just get a closer look at the artwork on Eddy Merc Crab. So here we have Dawn's Truce. This is a rare instant, costing us 1 generic and 1 white mana to play. It's got the gift a card mechanic. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. Now let's take a closer look at Dawn's Truce artwork here. And here we've got one brave mouse holding up a galactic egg to this cosmic owl. Beautiful colors in this one. You know me, I'd love to see this one as a foil. Just looking at all the detail in those feathers. And here we've got a common basic land and island, but it's this kind of full card art showcase art here in a foil. So let's just take a moment here to admire this. Here we've got a common 3/2 creature, Daggerfang Duo. It costs us 2 generic and 1 black to play. It is a rat squirrel. Daggerfang Duo has Death Touch. When Daggerfang Duo enters, you may mill 2 cards. Daggerfang Duo has some flavor text in the form of dialogue here. "Should we act now or later?" the rat asked. "Both," whispered the squirrel. Okay, let's get a more up-close look at the artwork here. It looks really cool in the foil as well. Might be a little bit harder to see on camera just with the lighting versus in person. And here we've got a common token artifact equipment, a sword. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and it has an equip cost of 2. And a little bit of a closer look at the artwork here. So that's what we've got for pack 2 here. Let's go ahead and just get some dollar values for these cards. Pack 2 in the books. Let's kind of just take a look here. You know, we pulled some pretty cool cards, I think, at least for my taste, from both of these packs. The cards that stood out to me from pack 1, Roughshod Duo was pretty cool. I really liked Early Winter. I just thought the art on that was very cool. I think Shrike Force was very cool looking as well. Manifold Mouse, I think just the artwork on it is really impressive, and also it seems very useful, especially with the whole, you know, offspring mechanic, and you can see a lot of the synergies here with the other just mouse tokens coming out left and right and all that. So I think this one, I really like this one. I'm gonna have to find a place for it in a deck or something. Love the land artworks here on the mountain. Even this token here, token creature, Lizard Warlock, is pretty neat. It's a little cartoony overall, but it's a pretty neat looking card. And then I really like the foil treatment on this Thought Shucker with the foil coming out of his eyes and in the snail shell. From pack 2, some of my favorites. I really like the Agate Blade Assassin. Thought that was pretty neat. I really like the Pond Prophet here, just the detail in it and just the really expressive look in the frog's face. Pretty neat how you can get that expressive with them. Bone Cache Overseer here, just the overall theme, very dark and brooding overall, so I really dig that. I really like Dawn's Truce, and yeah, I still really want to see this as a foil, but just again, the detail on the mouse here, the egg, all of the stars and everything, and the owl's wings. Very cool card overall. Beautiful foil island here as well. Gotta love that. Even love they got the little frog guy there. And then the Daggerfang duo I think is pretty cool too. Like I said, it might be a little hard to see on the camera, but in person it really gets the whole shadow and the shine of the moonlight going, so it really gives that vibe that you're just kind of out there where the only light source is the moon. So Bloomburrow. I really like what I've seen so far here, at least what I've been able to get my hands on. I like it for a couple reasons, and I kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I really do like the artwork. The artwork, again, say what you will, it may not be everyone's cup of tea. Realistically, I know there's probably plenty of Magic the Gathering players or collectors out there whose idea of a Magic card does not involve a squirrel stuffing their cheeks with acorns or a raccoon playing this didgeridoo Swiss Alps horn looking instrument. Something I really do love about the artwork is just how, and I don't know if this is the right term for it, how painterly it all looks and the amount of detail and everything. It really does look, you know, I'm sure there's digital components to this in the creation of it. In today's day and age, I can't imagine that there isn't, but it really does look hand-drawn, hand-painted in terms of the vibe or the flavor or the lens of the art. At least it feels kind of like a throwback to some of the artwork we would have seen in earlier Magic. Maybe like the flavor of the art or the vibes of the art isn't the right words for it, and maybe it's not that it's more painterly or anything of the sort. I don't even know, again, if that's a proper term, and maybe I'm not really qualified to speak to the art, but when I compare kind of this art style, to me it feels a little closer to what we had in some older sets of Magic. For example, again, very different subject matter, because sometimes the older style sets can be a little bit darker, heavier, more intense, like this one from Urza's Saga. So again, that's where maybe some people might disagree on the flavor or the vibe of an actual card art style, but it has a little bit more of that hand illustrated feel to it for me. Or we also have like this one from The Dark, and maybe it's just a little bit of how heavily things are lined or outlined, or, you know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but these kind of feel like they would be on paper, on canvas, or something of the sort. Whereas this one from Dominaria United, very impressive and very good artwork. You know, I like it. To me, it has that new Magic vibe to it. And, you know, I was looking at some other cards from Dominaria United as well. There are definitely some that look a little bit more painterly or analog or whatever you want to call it, that is kind of what I'm getting at here with Bloomburrow. So maybe I'm just digging myself into a deeper hole, but there's something there. I don't know. I'll have to talk it over with some of my friends that are a little bit better versed in art and whatnot. Maybe it's a lack of humanoid subject matter in the set or something. You know, that's something I kind of realized when I pulled, you know, these older cards. I guess this is kind of a humanoid, but, you know, a little bit modified. But here we've got kind of more natural, you know, like the sharks and stuff in here. On Dominaria, we've got a humanoid. So maybe these examples give me a clue as to what feels a little bit more old Magic versus new Magic. But of course, there's plenty of classic cards that featured people and humanoid features and creatures and such. So who knows? But what I'm getting at is I really like the art style on these cards. It just feels full of detail, feels rich, it feels dense. Even the cards themselves that I'm not like, oh man, this is the best card for me or whatever, I think has something stand out about the artwork where I can't say that about every other set that I've come across. And I think the other cool thing too, and I'm sure plenty of people have touched on this subject, but I think it could be pretty accessible to a lot of people, even newer players, or maybe accessible is not the word, but approachable. It might be a little bit more approachable for those who haven't played Magic. It can be a little bit more inviting. Like with most things, you're gonna have some people that are gonna be like, Magic's not supposed to be fuzzy and small and creaturey and all that type of stuff. Like, well, not creaturey, there's tons of creatures in Magic, but, you know, crittery. But I think things that bring new players into the game, especially that have a genuine interest in the game itself and playing the game, collecting, but out of genuine interest and passion for what the cards represent, beyond potential for profits down the line and stuff, is good for a game. It keeps it healthy, it keeps it going. You know, there's a place for everything, and I think Magic's done a lot, as we've all seen, to bring value to collectors, to entice people who are looking for more limited edition things, and bringing people in from outside the Magic the Gathering sphere, or, you know, the adjacent areas, by doing the secret lairs and bringing in more IP and all that type of stuff. I mean, the whole Dungeons and Dragons things, we've talked about that, you know, and I love it. You know, I'm all for it. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's all got its place, but I think it just feels like there's something here with Bloomburrow. When I hear people that aren't generally into Magic the Gathering, whether they have approached it before but kind of were a little bit overwhelmed or intimidated, so I'm like, hey, there's this new set, Bloomburrow, coming out, and they're like, oh, I think I heard about that one. That one's got like the squirrels and the rabbits and stuff, right? I think that's pretty cool. And if it gets people in the door and, you know, allows you to start up a game with them or teach them about the game itself, keeping the flow of new players in is important in the long run. Plus, maybe even get Magic the Gathering into more households, even for people who haven't heard of Bloomburrow. But you look at kind of this type of packaging artwork, I think is very appealing to lots of people who may not currently play or collect, whether it's due to age or interest or something like that. And as I've talked about in the other videos, you know, not everyone can collect all the cards per se, and maybe you just want to pick something and stick with it. Other card games like Pokemon, we know people have their favorite Pokemon, and for those of us who are in Magic, we could do that. For example, Phyrexians. But a passerby may not be like, ooh, I want to collect Phyrexians, or I want to collect Merfolk. That may not be as appealing as, say, collecting frogs or squirrels. So I think it does a lot to draw people into the doors of Magic the Gathering. All this could very well just be the rantings and ravings of a lunatic who thinks he knows more about Magic the Gathering than he does, and that's very well possible. I mean, the whole thing about this is it's casual, right? I like what I like, whether it's valuable or not. I like the idea of collecting and playing the games, and sometimes that lines up with things that are very heavily steeped in lore that's been around forever. I personally like things that are a little bit more dark, hence why I really like this Bone Cash Overseer, as we mentioned. In addition to being dark and spooky, he's also a squirrel. Not only is it a warlock, but it is also a squirrel. So, peanut butter and chocolate situation, why not? But enough about what I think about all this. What did you think? What do you think about Bloomburrow? What are you excited about? Did we pull any cards that you like? See anything that seems playable in your decks? You see your favorite little critter running around here? What do you think about the art? Has it gotten more people around you interested in Magic the Gathering? Let me know down in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a like, and as I always mention, go ahead and subscribe so you can be notified whenever I do a new video. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in, checking this out, sticking with me as we meandered through some new mechanics. Oh, that was another thing too. I really like some of the new mechanics here. Offspring, for example. I could see that, you know, really being appealing there. So at least right now, without having played it much. That's something I'm looking forward to hopefully sticking around for a little while. But as this channel keeps going, we'll take a look at more cards from new sets. We'll open boosters. People seem to like some of the accessory videos, so I'm gonna try to do some more of those. I've got some accessories that I'm looking at just off camera over there. So now it's time to say goodbye, and as always, I hope that you get out there, play some Magic the Gathering or trading card game of your choice with your friends, family, and loved ones. Collect some cards, have fun with cards. That's what they're made for. Until the next video, though, see ya.